After the Hunt was poised to be the provocative drama of this year's Oscar race. But it didn't get the reception everyone was expecting, and has ended up dividing audiences for very different reasons. This prestige drama from a renowned director starring some of Hollywood's biggest stars should have been a slam dunk. So what went wrong? Let's take a deeper look at After the Hunt to figure out if the film really did miss the mark, or if it's just misunderstood. The film follows a set of intellectuals at Yale University. Alma, the sharp-tongued professor fighting for tenure, her husband Frederick, Hank, the cool professor that all of the students have a crush on, and who is also particularly close with Alma, and Maggie, a young PhD student who works with and looks up to Alma. When we first meet these characters, they, especially Alma and Hank, seem very sure of themselves and their ideals. They, to some degree, seem to intellectualize things not out of a desire for deeper knowledge or understanding, but instead so that they can divorce themselves from the aspects of reality that they dislike, and instead turn them into abstractions that they can then argue about philosophically, while separating themselves psychologically and morally. But when Maggie shows up on Alma's doorstep looking for help after being assaulted by Hank, all of this is thrown into disarray. The setup of our not being privy to the actual event, but instead only hearing about it and having to work out the truth might call to mind Rashomon, Akira Kurosawa's 1950 film that sought to explore how the truth can evolve and change depending on whose perspective we're hearing the story from. But After the Hunt seems less interested in how the idea of the truth plays out for characters specifically, and instead seeks to engage with how this event causes everyone to react, both individually and as a larger collective of people trying to keep their claws sunk into this elite world. This ties into the film's exploration of trauma specifically within this elevated niche, where many see it as just the price of entry. As we'll unpack in a second, this does seem to play out across generational lines, but there's also the overarching question of finding empathy for unlikable people. How a refusal to do so can be wielded not only against others, but also against oneself.
Not everything is supposed to make you comfortable, Maggie.
The imbalance of power plays into this as well. We see this with the professors and the students, but also across other divides like gender and race. Alma hand waves all of this away as just complaining and people needing to toughen up, even though she herself still suffers from the effects of this in her day-to-day life. Not only in the secret she carries with her, but even in her career. She and Hank are up for the same job, even though she's clearly older and has likely been working towards it for much longer. Before we unpack the ending and why people ended up not liking the film, let's quickly dive into some of the key symbolism of the film to get a better understanding of its themes. The sound of a ticking clock is one of the first things the film greets us with. It doesn't serve to signify time running out, but instead to remind us of the reality that it, and the world around us, will continue steadily marching on, regardless of what's going on in our lives. We see Alma watching others through windows at key moments. This represents her separation both from the things happening around her and her own emotions, a habit which Maggie calls out at the end when contrasting their outlooks on life.
I mean, I always knew we were different, but now I know that that's a good thing. I like being alive to what happens to me.
The generational divide and the way people of different cohorts deal with challenges and each other is a running thread throughout the film, though not necessarily as central as some of the promotional material had made it seem. While the older characters do wax on about the problem with kids today,
Should I build a world for you that has all the edges rounded out? Pad your chosen cell with niceties and trigger warnings.
the contrast within the subtext of the film is mostly about that difference in expectations around how much one should have to suffer to get what they want. The older cohort think that the kids are just too soft and not willing to put in the work, while the students feel like they shouldn't have to be traumatized or used just to get ahead, and that they should be able to stand up for themselves. After the Hunt's characters all seem able to coolly speak at length about all of their thoughts, but the film also gives us hints to the true distress bubbling up under the surface. In some cases, it's small things like close-up shots of fidgeting hands, betraying their attempt at a cool exterior. Other times, it's larger things like Alma's stomach ulcers that crack her cold facade, a metaphor for the way all of the emotions she's repressed so deeply keep coming back up to the surface. While the film employs a variety of angles to twist us around and make us feel as out of sorts as the characters, There are a few key moments where characters look straight at us. This not only allows us to more clearly see their emotions play across their faces, it also puts us directly into the scene. So now, let's dig into that ending. In this new year, make more time for your goals by saving time in the kitchen with Factor. They help you eat well without having to spend time grocery shopping or cooking, with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs. Factor lets you cut down on the time spent worrying about your meals while making sure things never feel stagnant. They've got 100 rotating weekly meals across a variety of options, like high-protein, Mediterranean, and more. Their meals are super quick and convenient without giving up quality. They're filled with colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. I love being able to have a great meal ready in just 2 minutes, like this white cheddar chicken and broccoli grits with roasted green beans, sliced almonds, and chili garlic butter. It's great to be able to eat fresh, tasty meals without having to worry about shopping and prep. Head to factormeals.com/thetake50off and use code thetake50off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for a year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easier with Factor. As the film nears its end, a confrontation with Hank leads Alma to realize that he might be capable of much worse things than she had realized. Maggie gets an article about her ordeal and how poorly it was handled by Alma and the university, published in Rolling Stone. Under the pressure, Alma's stomach ulcers finally send her to the hospital. While there, she opens up to Frederick about a story from her past that she had long tried to hide. In her mind, she had always framed her own story as having gone after an older man, and then as being responsible for his choice to end his own life. But as her husband points out, she was a child. No matter what she was doing, it was the adult in this situation who knew better and was in the wrong.
There's always a choice. It doesn't matter if you wanted him, it doesn't matter if you threw yourself at him, he should have rejected you outright.
We can see how Alma's experience and the psychological turmoil of it, in turn colored how she engaged with Maggie's assault. If she had fully believed what had happened to Maggie, she would also have had to reassess what happened to her. The ending then jumps 5 years ahead to Alma agreeing to meet up with Maggie at a diner. Compared to previous conversations, this time they sit on the same side of the table, showcasing how the balance of power has leveled out, but also how they've come to a new understanding of one another.
Are you really happy?
Yes, I really am.
Then I'm happy for you.
Maggie tells Alma that she won. In the end, she was not only able to overcome the bad press, but become a dean.
You did it. You won.
But Maggie has found her own happiness in continuing to build her own life her own way without hardening her heart in the way Alma had chosen to. And in an illustration of how in this elite world everyone will always keep moving upward, Hank continues to find success too.
Still wonder where he is.
Making a pile of money spin doctoring for some Democrat.
Like we've seen in other stories about elite circles, here all of these people have already won.
I lost everything.
And look at you now.
The question is more about how much they're willing to suffer, or cause others to suffer, to keep moving up the ladder. The very end of the film fully breaks the fourth wall as we zoom in on a $20 bill and a half-drunk glass of wine.
Cut!
This snaps us into the reality of all of this being a performance. Not just the actors within the film, but the film itself. From the script to the stylistic choices like the Woody Allen-esque opening credits. It seems to be an attempt to wink at the audience in a knowing way, but the problem is, not everyone is sure exactly what the film is really trying to say. The film is deliberately jarring in a number of ways, but though it does have its moments that work quite well, much of the film feels grating in a way that feels lacking in purpose. So instead of feeling cutting and insightful, instead, in the end, it rings rather hollow. In its attempt to pull back from picking a side, it ends up leaning a bit too far into ambiguity to the point that it feels like the film itself isn't quite sure what its goal is. Instead of feeling like it's trusting the audience to understand its point without having to spell things out, it instead feels like the film isn't too sure of what specifically it actually wants to say. And so instead flirts around any concrete decision so that the audience instead has to fill in their own blanks. Given the fourth wall break, this of course could be done on purpose. forcing the audience to put all of those pieces into a whole on their own based on their own preconceived notions. But the film just doesn't quite manage to ground itself in anything enough for that to feel deliberate in a way that's satisfying. The whole, well, everyone's a bit wrong framing also feels particularly ridiculous in our current moment. Sure, the older generation's inability and/or refusal to confront the realities of the problems they face themselves and those that they continue to uphold have created a terrible environment for everyone. But man, those kids sure are annoying about it, so really they're all equally bad. Isn't really compelling in the world we're all currently living in. While the film's initial promo made it seem like it was intending to trigger audiences, in the end, the unhappiness with the film, at least from people who went in expecting to enjoy it, is generally more about the film failing to meet the expectations of the dramatic premise it sets up, and the capability of the actors it employed. Not that anyone's particularly offended by the content within it, but not everyone disliked it. In fact, many have noted that it does feel like an accurate portrayal of academia. Overall, it seems the film's biggest sin wasn't being controversial or off-putting, but instead just underbaked. If you've watched After the Hunt, don't forget to let us know your thoughts on the film in the comments. Did you find it intriguing or feel like it was lacking? Or maybe you landed somewhere in the middle? While After the Hunt might not have been everyone's cup of tea, this year's Oscar race does seem to be looking pretty great so far. Make sure to check out our playlist of the films in the running we've already made videos on, and let us know which movies you'd like us to cover next in the comments. That's The Take. Click here to watch the video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.